Alright, steading part 2. After a little more thought. Now we're going to start in on infrastructure. Alright. Well, this is going to be important. In order for any venture like this to be a success, we're going to have to be a shining beacon to business, to innovation, to research. So essentially, food, electricity, and housing are also as a result of this being a city at sea, would actually have to become part of the deal up front. Through aquaponics and being able to set up different sections of the city itself that would be geared towards a specific form or a discipline of research. We're going to have to split it up into these different categories. We're going to need a medical section. We're gonna want, which will include cancer research, dental, the whole bit, optical. We're gonna want physics. We're gonna want aerospace engineering. We're gonna want electrical engineering. We want essentially specialists from all of the tech industries. We are also going to want farmers. I'm not really talking farmers out in Oklahoma. I'm talking urban farmers. People that up until now have mainly been cultivating their skills while cultivating cannabis. We want people who are vetted and experienced in aquaponics, not exactly hydroponics. You're gonna need some chemicals with that. With aquaponics, there's far less chemicals that are going to be used. We can use an aquaponics system to generate fruits, vegetables, essentially everything but meat. That is going to be an issue. From this, we'd probably, at least early on, have to import our meat. So we're probably going to want to develop new forms of livestock development. Yeah, such a simple task, huh? Now, we're going to be on the ocean, so we can use our solar power plants through the use of solar collectors to distill the salt water to create steam, to spin a turbine, to then collect, to then go through a filtering process, and then into your home. We can also use the seawater that has been purified by generating power for us. We can use some of that water, split it using electrolysis, and we can then sell that to any private company that is involved in space exploration. Since hydrogen and oxygen are two primary rocket fuels, they don't need our customers wouldn't even have to bring their own fuel with them. We can generate it right there. We're going to want we're going to want a lot of things. We're going to want heat, but as a floating island, we can move up and down across the equator as we need to avoid weather. And we could essentially go and keep it perfect weather all the time, but we're still going to want a way to go and regulate all of this within our own dwellings. Yeah. So we're going to need electrical engineers, we're going to need plumbers, structural engineers. I mean, this is just like general maintenance here. It's fairly involved. Now, we're probably going to want to generate a fair amount of our power through solar barges, along with wind barges. Well, essentially, we can have turbines on the bottom of the city, separate from the anchors. When we are moving through the water, they are turned on, and we are using power to move. When we are stationary, we turn them off as far as using power, and as the currents push through them, they help generate some power. Not a whole lot, but some. All of it adds up. We can run a lot of this power through capacitors, but what I'm at the moment interested in is methanol fuel cell storage. That seems to hold a fair amount of promise. There's also some discussion about different types of nuclear reactors. Like the traveling wave reactor. That one actually seems somewhat promising. We're going to need power, water, housing, and food to essentially be, well, free. So in that sense, it's kind of a socialist setup. Which brings me back to the whole concept of status. In order to gain status, the more I was thinking about it, status can be gained within society essentially based on the values of that society. So if someone has come up and filed like 20, 30 patents, great. You have a fair amount of status built up there. On the other hand, if you have a single patent, but that patent has essentially has the promise to change the world, you get even more status. The status within the society should be determined solely on your excuse me, solely on your contribution. Yes, this sounds very, very socialist. I'm realizing this. And to make it sound even more socialist, getting into defense. Now, as I mentioned in the other video, it's going to be compulsory. This is going to be a necessary evil. We want everybody to know where all of the exits are, all the life pods, all the lifeboats. We're going to want everybody to be able to function as much as possible in a orderly manner. The only way I know to be able to do anything like this is through training. And that would be part of it. As far as military service, you have a year's worth of training and a year's worth of active duty, and then you're out. Now, I'd say that military service can be deferred for a time if you are in the process of finishing a degree. it can be deferred until graduation. We don't want to upset education. But when it comes to a city at sea, we're mainly going to want pilots, drone operators. That'd be for both on the water and in the sky. We're going to want cyber security. Many of these things we're not going to have a very large use for small arms fire, well, guns and rifles. That will be necessary in case someone actually lands and makes a landing on our city or whatever. But a standing army, in the classical sense, is probably most likely not going to be necessary. Most of the weapons we'd probably end up using with the heightened levels of technology being developed as being a hub for all of this. We're probably talking along the lines of maybe like rail guns, like the U.S. Navy is currently testing, directed energy weapons, like the Boeing airborne laser. We're not going to have the manufacturing capability to produce hundreds of millions of rounds, and I don't think we're going to want to spend $10-15 million a missile. So we're probably going to want to cut that down a bit. So I would assume that the majority of our defenses is going to be just that: missile defense systems, ship-to-ship defense systems, submarine nets, and the like. But mainly we're going to need a security force, a defense force, and if nothing else, we're going to need it in case of emergency situations. Alright, now most of that's out of the way. Something a little more fun. Science. Obviously, any company or laboratory that purchases space or sets up shop within the city-state, they're a resource. That's what we want. Along with their own personal investments, the leftovers from maintenance and emergency equipment and defense, the leftovers will be funneled directly into science projects. And I know the common theme is going to be, well, there's not going to be that much money left. Well, I don't know. Keep in mind, money is going to have, in this type of environment, money within the city-state is necessary only for like luxuries. So you're not going to have all the added expenses. So in this case, labor itself can cost less. And since many of the things that we're going to be using, people will also be able to go and generate for themselves within their own dwelling. They can just add to the total amount. Michio Kaku had described a scenario similar to this as the age of abundance. I think that at this stage, I'd say I would probably be fairly optimistic. But I like the concept. Yes, things that have to be shipped in are gonna have a premium. So some things are gonna be fairly costly. But if we treat this whole enterprise as a single corporation, Everyone is doing their part. They all get paid out of that, but they also all get housed essentially by their presence there. Status is maintained by status is generated and maintained by the contribution of the individual. So yeah, this is beginning to sound more and more socialist, and in a way I have to agree that that's probably how we're going to end up as a spacefaring race. I think many of us can see the trend of moving towards more robotic labor. If we do this right, we can become a leisure species. We can still innovate, and innovation still brings status. It still brings benefits with it. But just labor, meaning old dumb labor, that's going to be replaced, and we need to prepare for that. Honestly, the more I'm looking at this and the more I'm thinking about it, the more it reminds me of the first Foundation by Isaac Asimov. And the more I'm thinking about it, it might just be the way to go.